Hello everyone, Acid Fox back for part 2 of our Tarnished of Renown run. Just a quick recap, we are trying to beat the game without talking to any NPCs by any means necessary. That means level 1, no leveling, no horse, no traders or blacksmiths, and no crafting. In part 1, we killed Godric and Renown for their great runes, as well as the Draconic Tree Sentinel so that we could enter Lindell. However, this is where we found the game's softlocks since we haven't gone to the round table yet. Since that involves talking to Melina and accepting her gift, we find an alternative means to get into the royal capital. Simply put, the game is just not designed for us to enter Lindell without talking to NPCs, and we have to break the game. We take a teleporter chest on top of the Tower of Return and use the zip glitch to make it into the royal capital. From here we down Godfrey and Morgott and start making our way to the Mountain of Giants. However, the bridge leading over there was still blocked by Morgott despite his humiliating defeat to a naked Albinaric roleplayer who made their way onto the field. This means we need to start the first Elden Ring space program in order to get to the next main boss, the Fire Giant. Getting on top of the Mountain of Giants without using the provided elevator is no easy task. The zip glitch did seem to be the only option, but it was a matter of finding the right place and angle in order to make it. I performed many tests and researched everything I could about the zip glitch and found that I had acquired more knowledge of the zip than most online resources. So welcome to Albinaric Aeronautics, the Elden Ring flight guide for Ronnie consorts and the strong silent type by me. We will be going over getting to know your vehicle, controls and operations, and finishing it off with navigation with a few examples. Our vehicle is the zip glitch. In order for it to work, we must be able to maintain a stable 60 frames per second, but I have been able to do it by limiting the game to 30 frames per second as well. As far as I'm aware, this glitch is only possible on PC. We will need to bring any weapon, but longer weapons are preferred in order to more accurately track frames. The last requirement is a willingness to fail. Even with everything set up and executed properly, it may not work every time. My biggest issue is it seemed like the game liked to fluctuate between 59 and 60 FPS, regardless of settings, causing the glitch to not work. On to controls and operation. We hold Alt or whatever your keybind is for slow walking. Hold that key and the key to block. Once the character starts the block animation, we wait for the split between the 124th and 125th frame at 60 frames per second. On that frame, we will tap W or the movement key to walk forward. This is a very tight window, but keep trying and you will get it. The block animation may be different on some weapons or shields. From my testing, tapping W on the split of the 124th and 125th frame was consistent and successful on all weapons I had at the time, but I seem to have the best results with the Uchigatana and waiting for my character's right elbow to start dropping back down in the block animation before hitting W. On to navigation. When we tap W for the zip, that short movement is what determines the angle in which we will move. I'll explain a little more about that in the following examples. If there is an obstruction, like a wall or rock, in the direction we are zipping, the character will ricochet in the direction of the angle of the obstruction. This ricochet angle can be determined by walking straight at the object. If the character begins to sway left or right, then they will ricochet in that direction. However, if the character continues to walk into the object without swaying, and they just walk in place, zipping into the object at that angle will result in the character ricocheting directly backwards. Let's go over some examples. If our destination is at a higher altitude than our current position, then in order to get up there, we need to find an angle where when we hit W for the short movement, it's like our character is taking the first step on a large staircase to the destination. If the destination is on the same elevation as our current position, then we simply need to find a flat angle for us to tap W on. Now we are getting a little more complicated. Here our character does not have a good angle to directly zip to the destination. However, if we can find the right angle in the opposite direction, where there is an obstruction to ricochet off of, then we can make it. The character faces backwards from the destination and taps W to capture the angle. They ricochet directly backwards while carrying the same angle of attack. We will see a few demonstrations of this in order to get on top of the Mountain of Giants. Without further ado, let's fly up this mountain and get to the nearest site of grace in a safe, cool, calm, and collected manner.
Our path was set by the travel agency.
That's for schoolgirls. Now here's a route with some chest hair.
We finally made it and secured a site of grace. I will admit, I was not expecting a trans-dimensional ghost demon giant. Not too long after I arrived, I realized the next issue. Pulling up a map, I circled the area we landed in. This is actually a completely optional area on the mountain and has no direct path up to the main area where the fire giant is. It is just a sheer mountainside, so we have to use another zip to get up. The green arrow shows the zip that I take from the northern end of the mountain, to basically right in front of where the lift would have taken us. I had spent a long time searching for a place to zip off of and decided to take a break. It was about time my character got some proper winter attire, so I decided to take on all members of the Dark Nipple tribe while I was in the area. Now is also a good time to mention that the Mountain of Giants and its inhabitants are not very forgiving to level 1s. I mean, just look at this. Robin Hood literally rose from the dead, lost his balance, and started his career as a part-time proctologist. I lost half my health bar to a botched prostate cancer check. I finally found the spot to zip onto the main area of the mountain and execute it with the precision of a surgeon. We were only put back about 5 in-game hours compared to if I could just use the lift. We've made it this far without talking to any NPCs, and it's been very clear the game was not designed for that. We zip across the bridge, and now we just have to make our way to the fire giant. But there's one more stop along the way I want to take. This man's had it coming for a long time. Thanks to my experience in PvP and the fact that the Rivers of Blood katana is used by 90% of invaders, I treat this man the same way I treat all my invaders, like absolute dirt. Also, his mask gives dexterity, which can potentially open up more opportunities for weapons I otherwise wouldn't be able to use as a level 1. With that piece of garbage out of the way, it's time for the fire giant. I should also mention that the cheese method of making the fire giant fall off the cliff had already been patched out by this time, so that was not an option. This boss is also designed with the intention of the player having their horse. Like, literally you're not supposed to be here without it. So here's how to defeat the fire giant as a level 1 without any upgraded weapons, summons, or horse. With the fire giant down, things start getting a little weird. Typically, after you kill the fire giant is where there is a choice that affects your relationship with Melina, depending on certain things you did in the game. I'm being a little vague here to prevent too many spoilers, but this is essentially a point of no return. When the character first sits down at the site of grace up here, Melina typically shows up, a cutscene plays, and teleports the character to the next area. However, we will see I can just sit at it like I've been here before. Melina doesn't show up, and now I have to get into the crumbling city another way in order to progress with this run. But that's a story for another time. Thank you all you Tarnished for watching this far. I have watched many Elden Ring challenge runs, but I'm still yet to see anything like this. I mean, there's level 1s killing the fire giant with high level weapons and the horse, but my weapons weren't upgraded at all for this run, and that is where most of the damage comes from, not the levels. I know I wasn't the first person to try to beat the game without talking to any NPCs, but as far as I know, I'm the first to commit this hard to it. Most people stopped at the first block door to Lindell after realizing the game was not designed for this. We've covered most of the boring stuff and did almost all of the traveling we will do in this run and part 1, so the next video should be more exciting. I hope you will join me then, where we take on Malekith, Sir Gideon Ofnir, and Godfrey. But until then, leave a like if you enjoyed the content, and I'll see you in the next one.